So for those who reached mythical glory and above last season, did you also notice that the meta is different compared to epic rank? Throughout this video, you'll see why. I played 3 games, the first 2 using Argus and Zilong, which we all know aren't part of the meta in higher ranks, since tanky EXP laners are the trend right now. In my first game, I used Argus, who recently got a slight buff, but for me, he's still weak. I used the Temporal Rain emblem, which also received a minor buff. You might think this emblem isn't effective on Argus because his ultimate has a long cooldown. But interestingly, most of the time, you only engage when your ultimate is ready when using Argus. When Moonton revamped Argus, their goal was to make his ultimate usable even when he still has a lot of HP since it boosts his stats. But as you can see here, activating his ultimate too early isn't really effective. Maybe what he needs is a slight adjustment, like making the first phase of his ultimate last 5 seconds and the second phase an additional 3 seconds. Don't expect him to have CC immunity while using his ult, or for his damage to be increased, because that would make him overpowered. Imagine if he were immortal and couldn't be stopped. It would be too unfair. Just like in this match, there's no heavy crowd control or high mobility on the enemy team, making Argus's life really easy. For me, Argus is actually strong if the enemy draft doesn't counter him, meaning no high mobility and no heavy CC. But the sad part is that almost all meta heroes right now have either crowd control or high mobility, making his life miserable. That's why Argus is really just a situational pick. If you use him when there are barely any counters, he can be very effective, especially in epic rank. And like I said, giving his ultimate CC immunity would make him overpowered. In this game, my teammates weren't really that good, but we were still ahead and had a clear chance to win. Watch later to see how I closed out the game. This is exactly why Argus is a good pick in epic rank. The enemy team took Lord, but I still managed to take down 2 of them. So the Lord was already marching down the top lane, but my teammates were overextending in the bottom lane. The enemy took down the strongest marksman in Mobile Legends. I went ahead and helped my teammates here, and honestly, I was surprised by Argus's damage. This is exactly what I mean. If there are no counters, he can be really strong. But still, I wouldn't recommend using him all the time. We ended up wiping out 4 enemies, but their Lord was still pushing the top lane. Luckily, we had minions in the mid lane, and you probably already know what happens next. In the next game, I used Zilong, another hero that's strong in low ranks but weak in high ranks. Like Argus, one of his main weaknesses is heavy CC. However, unlike Argus, Zilong can actually be used to counter high mobility heroes. Another weakness of Zilong is burst damage, which isn't much of a problem for Argus since he has an ultimate that can save him in most cases. But overall, their playstyles are pretty similar. They both jump in, and most of their damage comes from basic attacks. I completely dominated the Sun in my lane because, honestly, Zilong is one of the strongest early game heroes against damage-type EXP laners. Actually, he can even handle some tanky heroes in the early game. That's why he's so effective in epic rank. There aren't many team fights. Most of the time, players just focus on their own plays instead of coordinated fights. You don't really need heroes that shine in team fights like Badang or Gatot Kacha. That's exactly the kind of hero I used in my 3rd game, a tanky EXP laner, since tanky heroes are the meta in high ranks. And I swear, that game was so frustrating. So, if you're in this rank, don't use tanky EXP laners. It's much better to go for heroes like Zilong. At this point, my teammates already wanted to surrender. I don't even know why, maybe because they were losing individually. The score was 11-16, and 7 of our kills came from me. I'm guessing these guys have been stuck in Epic for a long time. Even though we weren't that far behind, they wanted to give up just because their opponents were stronger than them. That kind of mindset is trash. Players who think like that will never improve. If you're the one carrying the game and your 4 teammates are completely useless, struggling for nothing, then sure, maybe you have a reason to surrender. But if you're just losing because the enemy is stronger and you give up right away, no way. That's a very poor mindset. Sun could barely do anything against Zilong. I don't know if it's just a hero matchup thing, but I really feel like Sun is at a disadvantage from early to mid-game. The only real problem I had here was Karina. Obviously, she counters Zilong with her first skill, which makes her immune to basic attacks, and we all know Zilong relies purely on basic attacks. Plus, she could easily burst him down. She also snowballed in this game since she kept killing my teammates. But of course, it's all about timing. If her first skill is down, Zilong can definitely burst her before she even gets a chance to fight back. And yeah, I ended up carrying my teammates in this game, especially our jungler, who literally had 0 kills the entire match and didn't even secure any objectives. Meanwhile, the enemy jungler was way stronger, and the skill gap between them was huge. And we all know that when there's that much of a gap, the stronger jungler usually wins the game. But like I said, Zilong is really strong in low ranks. You can definitely use him to climb before reaching Mythic. This was the game that was so frustrating. I played Badang in the EXP lane with a tank build. Both teams had 2 marksmen, but for us, one was a jungler, while for the enemy team, one was in the EXP lane. Even though Badang got nerfed, I'd still say he's strong and part of the meta, especially in high ranks. But in this match, I honestly think we would have had a better chance of winning if I had picked Zilong instead. You'll see why later. This is exactly why I don't recommend using tanky EXP laners in Epic or Legend rank. That's the thing. Heroes like this are strong in team fights, but in ranks like Epic and Legend, it's more important to be strong individually. If your hero can't burst down at least one enemy, and you have to rely on your teammates for damage, you won't climb ranks easily. You need a hero that can make plays on their own, not one that depends too much on teamwork. Because let's be real, teamwork isn't always reliable in these ranks. My early game here was actually pretty decent, and most of my teammates knew what they were doing, except for Leslie. She seriously played like she had no idea what she was doing. She kept dying over and over in this game. Seriously, even an AI bot would have played better than her. For sure, even you guys will be shocked by what she was doing, and her item build. She actually built Golden Staff on Leslie. Then she kept using her ultimate on enemies that had full HP, just like here. I even tried chipping away at Eudora's health, hoping she could finish her off, but nope, she still failed. Here, I really thought Gatotkacha's second skill would hit Eudora, but it didn't. Since my skills were on cooldown, I just decided to mess with Eudora instead. Yeah, I did mess up a bit there, but honestly, I couldn't stop laughing at what Leslie did. This is exactly what happens when you build attack speed on her. If you're using Leslie, it's fine to use her ultimate for vision, but that wasn't the case with my teammate here. She never canceled it, even when she saw that the enemy still had a lot of HP. And if you don't know, Leslie's ult cooldown depends on how many bullets she fires, so if you know it won't secure a kill, it's better to cancel it early. Did you see how late she used her ultimate just to reveal Mia? I'm not even sure if she knows that Leslie's ult can reveal invisible enemies on the map. But yeah, you really shouldn't expect much from your teammates in Epic rank. That's why it's so hard to win when you're using a tanky hero with low damage. I could have gone for a damage build on Badang, but we all know that tank build is more meta. I just wanted to compare and confirm that the meta in low ranks is really different from high ranks, at least for the EXP lane. Actually, I'd take back what I said earlier about my teammates being decent, because every single one of them had their own moments of stupidity. Selena, for example, kept running back and forth with low HP instead of recalling, and she got killed multiple times because of it. It was somewhat okay here since we got a trade, but only because the Fanny messed up. Then there's our tank, Gatotkacha, who built Sky Piercer. Like what? You're the tank and you're building Sky Piercer? Is getting kills really more important to you than helping your teammates? Look at this. We have 2 marksmen, the turret is already low HP, yet they still won't push. So to those who keep saying that marksmen are better in the gold lane because they can push turrets faster, explain that. At the end of the day, game sense is still more important than just picking a marksman. If they had just pushed, our tank would have still been alive. What Granger did here was pretty funny. He took the long way around, not realizing that I had already beaten him to it. I predicted his move before he even made it. Even though I played well in this game, it was still so hard to win because my hero had no damage. No matter how good your setups are, if you don't have enough damage and just rely on your teammates, it's useless. So for solo players struggling to rank up, try using heroes that are strong at pushing, and don't use heroes that are only strong at team fights. Look at this part. My marksman teammates prioritized taking Lord instead of clearing minion waves when they could have just farmed more items. If you check the enemy team, only Mia was dead, and their jungler was Fanny, who could easily burst them down. How did they even think it was a good idea to go for Lord when it was just the two of them, and 4 enemies were still alive? How? I just don't get their thought process. The enemy team had map control, and we desperately needed someone to clear the minion waves, but they left it all to me, when I was on a tank build with almost no damage. Then here, our jungler Kimmy was dead, while only the enemy roam was down. We were still at a huge disadvantage in map control because my teammates refused to clear minion waves. I didn't follow them because I saw Mia trying to split push in the bottom lane. They even spammed the backup request on me, completely ignoring the fact that the enemy could easily take our base. It was much better to defend than to gamble on securing Lord when we didn't even have a retribution holder. As exciting as my win with Argus was earlier, that's exactly how disappointing this loss felt. Look at this. I was always the one clearing minion waves when it should have been Leslie or Kimmy since they needed the gold for their items. But no, they were more interested in looking for fights. I even tried ignoring the minions just to see if they'd notice and go back to defend, but nope, they just kept forcing fights like nothing else mattered. And that's where we lost. Just take a look at my teammates' builds.